Okay, we're on. We'll start the meeting as usual by having resident comments. So who's up first? Okay. Please state your name and.
Sure. I don't know who keeps minutes, but.
It's actually not part of the
What's the subject?
Sorry.
What's your subject?
Subject is request to contract our own landscaping service. I'm Charles Shue. I live on Anguilla.
Okay.
And I've learned that I'll be under 3 minutes if I stick to my script, so.
Okay,
bear with me.
I'll start the timer, all right?
We moved to Sandoval on April 2nd, 2021. At that time, our quarterly fees were $9.11, of which the landscaping cost was $3.81. I rounded up. As we understood at the time, the services provided by DTE included grass cutting, weed control, fertilizer, patching dead spots, mulching, and bush and tree trimming. In general, we were pleased with the services provided in our first 18 months here. In January 2023, our total HOA fee increased to $11,007, you know all that, of which landscaping increased 22%. Now, that was compared to a 16% rise on maintenance fees. While the increase in landscaping is a concern, a significant drop in DTE services is why I'm here tonight. I now trim my own bushes, patch my own dead spots, and more than likely, I'll be buying my own mulch. Aware that many Sandoval DTE customers have similar concerns, I've begun researching the cost of alternative landscaping services. To my surprise, it's not cheaper. However, I am convinced that my level of service will be greatly improved if I had more direct control. I'm willing to pay the difference. And from all the complaints I hear on Sandoval Living, I suspect most people would side with this. Don't know. Haven't taken that poll. My question to all of you on the board: when can I and my neighbors get out of forced DTE services? They ignore us. They must know their lame ducks or whatever, because it's bad. Especially when several neighborhoods already choose and contract directly. That's it.
Thank you. I'll respond to that in my comments. Let's go on with the next resident. But your point is well taken, but you're not going to like the answer for now. Hopefully you'll like it soon, but not today. Who's next? Hey, Stu.
I just
Stu,
want to make a,
yeah,
what's in?
that was the last one.
Okay, Stu Seckler, I live on Braille. I approached, or I have been talking with our compliance officer about a problem we've been having with people feeding the wildlife. And one person I videotaped 3 times already. And I spoke to him the other day, and he said he can't keep citing the person after he said he did already, because he has to wait nearly 2 months before it goes to in front of different committees before he can issue another citation. Is that true? 2 months before they can issue another citation?
I don't think so.
No.
No, not true.
That's what me and my wife were told the other day by Chris.
We'll talk to Chris.
Because,
I'll talk to you after.
all right.
It's difficult to monitor bird feeding, as you should be done by anybody, not just an example,
I
anybody.
just happen to look over, every time I look over there, this person is out there. Even, she was out there when I videotaped her, was it yesterday, the day after the storm? There were even no birds out there because of the storm apparently, but normally there's like 30 to 40 birds on her lawn. But yesterday she was out there were no birds and she's just still throwing pieces of bread out.
Bread is not good.
No, it's bad for their stomachs and everything.
It's bad for the ponds.
Right, well, she's throwing it in the water and on the
Thank
grass.
you.
Thank you.
Any additional comments?
I'm new, so I don't know if I'm supposed to pre-register or not.
Wait till you get up to the mic so we can hear you.
Hi, I'm Julia East. I moved in October of last year, hi Marilyn, because my house in the other part of the Cape was flooded. And I would just like to confirm what the gentleman was talking about with the down to earth. We have been extremely unsatisfied with their performance. We have trimmed our own bushes, our own trees. I've gone out and pulled weeds. I should have brought pictures of the landscaping in the back because the grass is literally this high that they have not pulled out of the landscaping. And my one bush is being overtaken by a weed that is crawled up through the bush. I mean, the service is just terrible. So thank you so much for bringing that up because we support what you said. The service is terrible. Something has to change. Thank you.
Thank you. Any additional comments? We'll comment now on DTE. First of all, even though it might not be effective, take a photograph, take a video, put in a work order. Oh, thank you. My time is up. Time's up.
My experience with a word order is that it's ignored.
I understand. They have a terrible reputation with how they handle work orders. All of you should know by now that we have extensive work going with multiple vendors to be the next phase of our landscaping, all right? In the RFP and in the contract that we will be signing, there are many controls that we will have with that vendor. We don't have them with DTE. The contract does not give us that power. Okay? When we tried to fix it by not paying them, it cost us a lot of money. And one of the reasons that the bill is up 26% or however percent is because we're recovering that money we had to pay them. So that's not just for current dues. That's part of that is recovery of that money that we had failed to pay them. We have some pretty good vendors that have supplied proposals, and we'll get to you. Now, in terms of wanting to go on your own, you can. I'm sorry, you can, but you still got to pay the fees. The only way around that, if you look at our documents are written, they were written by a developer, not by us, but they're written in such a way that they're very difficult to change. I mean, it takes a huge majority of our folks to vote on it to change the rules. Even in the last election, we only got a little over 400 people out of the 1425 to vote. For you to, let's say your street wanted to do your own or opt out completely from DTE, it requires 70% of you to do that. Okay. And if that can be done, so be it. And we'll certainly support it. But that's awfully difficult to get. So what we're doing, and our landscape committee is working on it, and you'll hear from Dave Ott later tonight, some of the things we're doing in terms of this. I agree with you that their performance is abysmal, and as they know they're about to get kicked out, it's getting worse. We don't have an immediate solution, but we should have one soon.
What is the time frame, John?
Well, the contract expires. Don't talk about the contract. This is a public forum for us to talk to me after. All right. Okay. I've got to be careful. Okay. Are we ready to start the meeting? Okay. Let's pledge allegiance to the flag. pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Now, establish a quorum. Tom Reinhardt?
Present vehicle.
Viacom, okay. Stan Toro?
Here.
David Ott? Here. Aaron Stout?
Here.
Andrew Emmert?
Here.
Bill Simonelli?
Present.
And our John Manager. Okay, thank you. The meeting is open, and do I hear a motion to approve the minutes that we've all gotten from the last meeting?
I'll make a motion.
I'll second the motion.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Minutes approved. Okay, further discussion I don't think there's much more to say about DTE, but if I too thought that I could get my lawn done cheaper than they could. The trouble is I still have to pay. I have a neighbor next door. She has an independent lawn service paying a lot more than DTE, and she still pays the dues. I'm not that flush, all right? But we're working diligently to get a vendor and get a contract that will support us better. And we need to review that contract more frequently, because one of the phenomenon, we've been in Cape Coral for 23 years. And one of the things we've noticed back when we had our own separate house is that landscape companies are really great the first year, and as they get more and more customers, their service level tends to drop off. We want to be able to monitor that and replace them, and maybe have our own cycle of going through that, so we can maintain the quality we need for those customers of landscape. Okay. We've already covered the parking pass situation, didn't we, from last meeting?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think we need to do that. Oh, that's from last one. Okay. All right, any, Chuck, I'm working at a case where I don't have the agenda in front of me. What's wrong? Thank you, thank you. Okay.
Sir.
Thank you. Okay. Let's have the treasurer's report. Bill, you need the video?
Please.
Okay, we'll move out of here.
Okay. At the top level of the treasurer's report for our operating budget, as you'll see in the summary numbers, the operating budget is on track both from a collection of revenue and from a expense specifics. You'll see a couple expense areas that are over and under. We'll talk about those. We have some delinquencies, settlements pending as we get through the bankruptcy process and the settlement process with their lawyers. And so hopefully we'll see some resolution of those delinquencies in the next month. Starting in September, we're going to start a trial with the Intra-Fi service that got approved 2 months ago. Our plan is to start paying, is to transfer some money to our Intra-Fi account and start paying one major vendor out of that account and test the process for a few months with Associa to make sure we have a good method of operation in place. And then we'll start moving significant portions of our operating budget into the Intra-Fi service and work from there. As we keep talking about, our budget schedule is the Finance Committee is going to start kicking off the budget season on September 12th, and we're working towards a board vote on the budget for November 16th. So sometime prior to the 16th, we will have a town hall to go through the details of the budget for this coming year. On our reserve funds, right now we have a total reserve funds of about $3.2 million. Approximately $452,000 of it is in our what's called Pacific Bank money market account. That's where we write our checks from to pay for reserve projects. And the rest is in our investment account of Fifth Third. The year-to-date market yield for Fifth Third has stabilized at 2.85%. We have not made any more withdrawals from that account in the last 30 days. So we'll start seeing that number start to creep up again as it normalizes to the Treasury notes. Over the past 30 days, we did 2 transfers of cash from the operating collections account to the reserve funds. The first transfer was $124,000. That is the initial contributions that people pay when they buy a house in Sandoval, and they pay their $4,000. That got moved over to the reserve side of the balance sheet. And bless you. And the second one was $74,000. That was the first set of quarterly assessments that came with that were collected. We'll talk about this some more, but we're still seeing slow real estate traffic in the community compared to last year and what we budgeted. So our contributions going into the reserve is a red flag, and it does have an impact as we look into the 24 timeframe. Hurricane Ian recovery and assessment. I resisted the effort to put in a Dahlia at the same time because I think there's not too much here to talk about that Chuck can highlight us on. But the restoration efforts for Hurricane Ian are in hopefully their last couple of innings to get done. We've seen no significant changes in the costs that were presented for the assessment. You will be getting a mailing for the assessment payment, and the first payment, or if you want to do the whole payment, that'll be due on October 1st. Interesting, we've gotten a lot of emails from residents, and I'm surprised we've got a significant number of emails directly from insurance adjusters looking for qualifications or trying to understand some of the details behind the assessment. So if anybody is still running into issues with their insurance claims adjusters, they're welcome to send me an email to see if we can answer their questions so we can smooth your process for getting the loss assessments paid out. Year-to-date operating financials. As we see, our operating income is about $500,000 to the good so far. Reserve assessments are approximately year-to-date about $34,000 behind the budget. And our operating expenses right now are about $250,000 over, or under budget, I should say. So we're at a high level, things are looking good from an operating perspective. A lot of the positive variance that comes into our operating expenses is from the fact that we have not put anything into contingencies yet. That's about $140,000 that sits there in the budget, which we haven't had to tap yet. And right now, based on the current volume of house sales, we're looking at year-end forecast. We're going to be about 45% of below budget for reserve contributions this year. So that's something that'll definitely have to go into account for the budget. Looking at our major expense categories, the neighborhood landscape positive variance is primarily due to the irrigation work that is done by DTE, the irrigation maintenance work. There was a big gap in the first and partly into the second quarter this year where they did not get us any invoices for work they've done. I expect over time that's going to start catching up. We just approved like 35, 40 invoices from DTE dating back to April. So we're going to start seeing that probably get closer to budget over the remaining months. Utilities, 37% of the variance is due to timing of paying the invoices. So I expect in the next couple of months that'll get closer to being even. The community landscaping variance, as we've talked about, a lot of the work that was done by Crawford in the first part of the year was for Hurricane Ian restoration efforts. That's being funded out of the Hurricane Ian assessment. So we'll see, so there's a bit of a gap in the first part of the year, but their monthly billings are pretty much on what we had forecasted for the budget going forward. The payroll variance, right now, we're smoothing that out as we're past our 3 payroll months, and we'll start seeing that pretty even out. And I expect that we'll end the year about 1% over budget there. On the other expenses, as I mentioned, no expenses have been allocated to contingencies through the end of July. Irrigation repair maintenance work, a lot of that was covered under Hurricane Ian activity, so that's why we have that variance. We made our federal tax payment on time at the end of July, so we're all good and up to date with our federal taxes. And the operations variance is driven by personnel churn as we get them new uniforms. The operating balance, you see the balance has goes up and down as we collect our monies, and then it gets dispersed through the operating expenses. I do expect that it's going to be, the total assets are going to increase by about $2.5 million once the associate bookkeeping group completes making all the bookkeeping entries that were, adjustments that were recommended by the audit, so we get the value of the buildings built into our balance sheet. The reserve balance sheet, the main story there is that the decrease is primarily driven by the fact that we're paying a lot of bills, as you see, for Hurricane Ian restoration and other capital projects. Delinquencies. On a 6-month trend, we saw a bump up of 30-day delinquencies last month. That is pretty typical for the first month after the quarterly payments. As you look at, pretty similar to what you've seen in April, if you look at past treasury reports, you always sort of see that bump in the 30-day category the month after the assessments are due. 2 out of the 7 long-term delinquencies have settled in the past month, and we're trying to get more of those settled over the next month. And right now, there's only 5 accounts that represent 66% of the 120-day delinquency total, and that's where a lot of the effort on collection is focused on, so we can get that down. On our capital spend, through the end of August, because I was able to get invoice information through this week, we've spent almost $1 million on out of capital. Most of it obviously has been the $885,000 that has gone for Hurricane Ian restoration efforts. 102 of it has gone into reserve planned projects, and 2,000 into discretionary projects. Going forward, right now, we have an understanding that we will be, we have 2 pending discretionary projects that are on the far side of the chart. The Bocce Court Hutton Fans, which was approved last month, and one of the projects that we will be talking about today during the board meeting is for some upgrades to the Barkley Dog Park. In addition to that, we'll be looking at a project later in the meeting to do improvements on the Phase 3 lakes, and that is allocated under the ponds erosions. That's part of the reserve plan for ponds and erosions in this year. Overall, we have a current view that we have approximately $50,000 in the budget, apples to apples, left for discretionary projects if we elect to spend it. However, for every dollar that we don't make with our reserve contributions, we have to make up somewhere down the road. So I think we have to be very cautious about how much we want to spend on a discretionary basis, at least through the end of this year, at least that's my opinion. One correction I'd like to make from the July report is that I reported that the Bocce Court project was $15,000 over budget. I was asked to go back and re-look at the invoices, and on an apples-to-apples basis, we discovered that the project was $5,700 over the original budget. And my error was due to working with an incorrect total from the 2022 spend project. Okay. And that's it. What? Does the board have any questions on the report?
No. Well, one comment is, in the past, home sales have always been more than 100 per year, and this year it's really significantly lower.
Yeah, it's,
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, it's something we're gonna have to deal with when we get into the budget in terms of planning out our big bang projects that are down the road that've got to get funded. Yes, Marilyn?
Do you have in the budget for what we have as revenue, the sales of the homes, do you happen to know what that number is?
I don't have it memorized, but I can look it up. What I do know is that the number that we put in the budget for this year was 18% below last year's volume.
Okay,
And we are still running
lower.
below that.
On that report that I gave you on the houses that were
Yeah.
sold up to July 31st, I
Yeah.
think, it was 35 homes, and I did the 4,000 times,
Yeah.
and it came out to 140,000. So I just,
So, okay.
that was my reason for asking what we budgeted.
Right, and just a small point there. Any homes that were sold that closed in the first quarter, they were only charged $3,000. Because of the delay in getting the
Because we
budget
didn't change
approved,
it.
we didn't kick it in until the beginning of the second quarter, so that adjusted the numbers a bit.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Thank you. General Manager's report. Chuck.
Yep. As the board had a chance to review the 3 violations presented for approval.
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Can I have a motion to accept these violations?
Can we know a little more about the 3 violations read other than just the number?
They are in your package.
Oh, that's right, I did see them, I did
Yeah.
read it, and I did agree.
We don't usually
We
talk.
don't tell,
Yeah.
we don't tell names.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
I'll make a motion to accept the recommendation for the violations.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carried. Excuse me. Okay.
Okay, a little status update. As Bill mentioned, Hurricane Ian, we are down to the last couple of items. The tennis court lights and basketball court lights have been ordered. They're in fabrication, and we're hoping to get an install date within the next month or so. The other issue is the shed. We lost 3 sheds during the hurricane, and we've replaced it with 1. The pad is there. We're waiting for the shed to be delivered, at which time we can stop using our conference room as a storage shed and hopefully put the conference room back into full service. We did have a wind event here. I hate using the word hurricane tropical storm. Still trying to get over the last one. But we did sustain minimum damage. We have a number of branches that were broken in some of the trees. Nowhere as close to what we endured during Ian. We have one of our barrier arms on our gates was damaged and will be repaired. And last but not least, Old Glory cannot fly until we get the rope on the flagpole put back up again. We lost that in the storm. So with that, I should be able to report to the board in the next day or two what amount of money we're going to need to get those branches out of the trees that are broken. I would like to report, we're talking about trees, and it's a bit of a sore subject, but DTE has hired a company called Coastline that is doing the trees in the DTE area. They are doing a beautiful job and getting nothing but compliments on the work that they've done, to the point where we've actually asked them for a quote to do normal operations. It's that time of year that we start looking, even though we spent a lot of money on hurricane cleanup, we still have palm trees that need to be taken care of. The coconut trees around the pool and the cul-de-sacs need to be taken care of. We've got a quote from Coastline, and you put me on the 3 minutes thing here? Is that done?
It's a good thing you put me in
Shutting
there.
off. I'm shutting off.
So we're looking for a couple more bids for trees, and then we will be getting the trees around the pool trimmed. That will all take place at the crack of dawn, and hopefully the pool will be reopened by 10, 11 o'clock. So we don't want to shut down the pool to do coconuts. The next project that we're working on now, for some of you, if you came in through the driveway, the parking lot today, we finally patched those big potholes that we have out there. We were scheduled to have the parking lot sealed and striped. Unfortunately, this little wind event kind of threw everything off until next week. So we will have the parking lot closed for about 12 hours to get let that dry and get that all situated. So, excuse me. I talked about pool trees and cul-de-sacs. That's coming up. And with that being said, we are moving along. So that's my report. Any questions?
Did you say what day you'll be doing the paving work?
We're trying to get a date now. It was supposed to be September 1st, Saturday morning of Labor Day weekend, but now it's pushed to next week.
Understood.
And Chuck, can I talk to you after the meeting about a pool issue?
You certainly can.
Sure.
Thank you.
Okay. Does that finish your report?
Yes, sir.
Okay, the old business, we talked about the change in fishing rules and regulations, and I guess we wanted to make that more clear.
I needed to tighten that language a little bit. It was brought to
So
my...
we're not going to do that today?
No, it's ready to go.
Oh,
If
okay.
we're ready to make those changes, we'll make it.
Okay.
So
Is this a resolution you're making to make those changes?
I'm making a resolution to tighten the language, yes.
Okay, please read it.
So 2 lines within the documents that deal with the lake usage and fishing in particular did not address the catch and release only policies as strong in one point, and then also did not discuss in the strong point of the, that policy is strictly enforced. So I wanted to take the portion of that middle sentence and get that addressed. So let me read that all to you so you will know what those changes will sound like. And they will mirror one another this time instead of being different language in both of those articles. So give me one moment. I apologize that it was right in front of me. So what we will change section 5, bullet 8, page 21 to is going to read this way now. Fishing is from the pier only. Again, this deals with Calypso Lake, just so everybody understands. Fishing is from the pier only. Fishing from the lake banks is not permitted. The catch and release only policy, excluding invasive species, Plecostomus or armored catfish and tilapia, which may be removed from the lakes, euthanized, and properly disposed of, is strictly enforced. Fishing license may be required by the state of Florida. We put the exclusion of the 2 invasive species into parentheses this time. Likewise, section 8, which talks about the use of the lakes generally, is on page 27 of our use and restriction handbook. Bullet 4, we're going to state in that fishing is allowed in designated community lakes. Do not enter someone else's private property to gain access to a lake. Again, this is where the language will now mirror. The catch and release only policy, in parentheses, excluding invasive fish species, Plecostomus, armored catfish, and tilapia, which may be removed from the lakes, euthanized, and properly disposed of. End of parenthesis. is strictly enforced. Fishing license may be required by the state of Florida. So just reiterating the catch and release only policy with the exception of the invasive species. Someone,
Do I hear a second?
I'll second it.
Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Now, just for any of you who catch some of the Lacosmus armored catfish, if you look on YouTube, there's some guys cooking them. If you cook one, let me know how it tastes, all right? I haven't tried that yet. I have speared a couple, but I haven't eaten any.
Is it similar to snakeheads?
Actually, as they say, it's just like crab meat.
Okay, yeah. I'll believe that one.
Yeah, right.
Coming from Maryland, I'll believe that one. I taste it.
They're in a snakehead.
Okay, now,
It's
and
actually not bad.
moving to new business, we have some ARC appeals. The first is Ross and Lisa about a driveway. Are you here?
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you. Hi, my name is Ross Jamund. I'm over on Sundale Court. Moved in about a year ago. Some of you may know our house. It was not occupied for about 13 years, so we've been doing a lot of renovations from 2009 through 2022. It's been going through all sorts of stuff, but we're working hard to improve it. We are here today, my wife and I, we were trying to get an ARC approval that was denied appealed. We're trying to get a sidewalk put in on the side of our house to connect a driveway to our pool deck. The reason it was denied is because it's within 5 feet of the setback line on one side of our house. We're here to respectfully request that someone might consider allowing us an exception to that. We have many other neighbors that have similar sidewalks.
Was there any question of color?
There was, we addressed that, and we actually got that part approved with the ARC committee.
The color's approved.
Yeah, so we had to go with the darker color than we originally chose.
I think it was slate gray is what I.
Yeah, we were slate gray, and now we're,
I saw that, right.
yes, yeah, thank you. We've been very appreciative. You guys have been very helpful for us so far. Go ahead.
Do you have the neighbor that is next door? Do they accept?
Yes, yep. They love our plan. We showed them our plan. I can get that in writing if you'd like.
No, not sorry.
Yeah, and one of the things that we're also trying to address is standing water. We have an issue with water there, and a lot of the other neighbors have done similar sidewalks to alleviate this problem. We did find one neighbor who did go through the ARC approval process successfully, which not many of our neighbors did. So we're aware that a lot of our neighbors may have not done things appropriately. We're trying to do things appropriately. So we're just respectfully asking that we're allowed to go within about a foot of our property line in one small section.
Any board members have questions about this?
I have pictures if you want to see the diagram.
Yeah, can I see this?
Yes.
Sure, please. Yeah.
So here is the plan that we want to add. I also brought our plot plan. So here
So this
is,
is coming off the driveway, this is gonna be cement or brick?
it'll actually be brick pavers, similar to the driveway, but a slightly darker color. So this is where
It'll be covering
they're
this
going to
mess.
be, yeah, they'll be covering that mess.
Any issue, Stan?
Here is our.
Not really, because I had the same issue in my house with the standing water, it's disgusting.
We all do.
Yeah, I've been out to see
We have a neighbor who has a very similar setup to us that we are trying to mirror, kind of. Yeah, there you go.
You pass those this way.
2628 Sundale Court is the Hayes household.
Pass them
And
down.
I attached the email that they got in 2020 that approved it. They didn't have the actual letter anymore. I was hoping that if it mattered, one of you guys would maybe be able to pull up the previous approval.
One thing we're doing now is Denise is keeping better records of what we decide, so we will be able to find records. Oh, yeah, I see, sure.
Yeah, those other pictures are just showing where we want to do it.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, it looks good. I wish I would have done that.
Yeah.
So can I ask why, so can someone from the ARC speak to
Yeah, Marty's
their
here.
opinion on this?
I think the rules state you can't do it.
Yeah.
Because it's a proximity issue. And since the neighbor doesn't care, I'd say.
What happens if the house is sold and the neighbor that moves into that currently acceptable situation does not approve?
Good question.
That's,
Still be on our property line, we would be crossing our property line.
So it's still staying on your property line?
Yep.
yeah.
The rules though say that we can't be within 5 feet, which gives us really no room over there.
Have we had enough discussion? Are we ready for a vote?
Yeah,
All those in favor of, you have more questions, I'm
no,
sorry.
I was going to make the motion, but go ahead.
I was going to say, all those in favor of approving his appeal.
In favor?
In favor.
I'm in favor.
All opposed?
Hey, John, this is Todd.
Yes.
Question is, what's ARC's recommendation?
Art did not approve it because of its proximity to the property line.
Okay.
Yeah. So we would be going against, but I really don't think we're going to have a lot of people upset at Art for us doing this. They're just following rules. And we're making an exception to the rule. Okay. Have you voted? Yea or nay, Todd?
I have not, but my position is I would stay consistent with what ARC's recommendation is.
So you vote nay. Okay, let me, once again, show of hands. All in favor? All opposed?
Two.
Motion carries. We accept your appeal.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, the next appeal is Laura Lease.
Hello, my name is Laura Lease and I live on Ashbury Circle. We are appealing the ARC denial for a medium brown standing steel roof. Ashbury is supposedly only allowed tan and red. A member of the ARC committee did tell me that dark tan has also been approved for our street, but I have not seen that in writing. But back in March is when we first applied and we were denied. They said that it was too dark for our street. But I have seen at least 10 other streets that do not permit brown roofs, having brown roofs permitted. And the icing on the cake was the other day when I was taking my dog outside and noticed that a house 3 doors down from us now has a dark brown roof on Ashbury. So I'm here to ask for equal acceptance and treatment across the board in situations like this.
One thing you'll say, Laura, I appreciate you bringing it, is that having made a mistake does not give the opportunity for everyone else to make the same mistake. In fact, we're going to be finding people who have done that.
They got it approved.
We will be finding people who have done it without approval. If it's been approved, fine.
It's been approved.
Do you have a picture?
Do you have
Of their
well,
house?
No, well, you have the material you can show us, because
For mine, or
ARC says the material you've chosen is not brown, it's bronze.
it's not bronze, it's brown. It's on this sample, it says medium bronze, but in the piece of paper given by the supplier, it says medium brown. It's the same exact thing.
Is that the material in your hand there?
Yeah.
Would you pass it around to us, please? Yeah. It's hard to tell from a little piece of something, you know? Yeah.
We have taken it outside into the sunlight. It does appear lighter outside, just like all the rest of the standing seams do. We have a ton of tan standing seams that have gone up in Ashbury, and in some sunlights, they actually almost even look white. They're very, very light in the sunlight. So I know that these do appear lighter. Sure.
Laura, you said there was another house on your street.
Yes.
That was approved,
Yes.
that is the same color as you're asking for.
Their house is actually darker.
Pardon?
Their house is darker than what
It's
I'm
dark.
asking for.
Do you, in fact, have a picture of that house?
I do.
I got notes from ARC. Is someone from ARC here?
Yeah.
ARC's not here.
And Rob.
Okay. The notes were saying that Ashbury has tan and terracotta roofs. The application said medium brown, but the samples shown was medium bronze. And therefore not the same color.
It is the same. I don't know why the sample has bronze on it, but in the booklet that I turned in with all of the sample colors, it does say medium brown. But this is not a shimmery bronze. I know that there are some premium materials that are offered that are not permitted. It is not one of those premium ones. It's on the actual pamphlet. I don't know if you guys have that in the file that I turned in,
No, we don't.
but I did turn in the actual color chart. Okay.
Did you want Art to talk about it? Art, did you want Art to talk about this?
I don't know. Do you want Art to talk about it?
Yeah, I don't
No.
think so.
No, no.
Yes, this is the stone-coated steel.
The dilemma we have is that there are a number of homes that have put up roofs without ARC approval, and some of them aren't the colors that would have been approved. And we're
But I
going,
do know they did approve that one.
okay. That's dark.
That's stone-coated steel.
Yeah.
So we're having a hard time trying to understand why certain people get approved for the same exact.
Smooth house.
I think
And
that's,
we applied for this first before they did.
Okay.
And it looks like the sample.
can
I mean,
someone from ARC clarify anything on this? 'Cause you guys have talked about it, right? Marty?
The brown is called birch. It's stone coated, and as we have learned, stone coated comes out to be 3-4 shades darker
Yeah.
than what's supposed to be. This was approved January 9th, our first meeting after your resolution, as stated that we could not turn down applications for color or design.
What? You cannot turn down application for color? Of course you
Going
can.
back to history when we put the interim process in place.
Oh,
Before
I
the
don't
final,
think- I don't think that was the case.
If
It
the
was worded
precedent's
like that.
already.
What?
it was worded
We fixed it, didn't we?
2 on the resolution.
after.
Yeah. Okay.
And you're talking standing seam metal against stone coated. Standing seam is always a couple of shades lighter, and the stone coated is always,
Standing seam.
standing seam is always a couple of shades lighter, and the stone coated is always darker.
And yours is fancy.
Right. If there was a comparable tan available that was darker than what they call the dark tan on their sheet, obviously that would have been a consideration, but once you see it outside on the houses, it's so super light. It looks super light.
Todd, do you have any comment?
I'm counting on my fellow board members to give me some direction, but, how dark is the proposal? Is it dark or is it a tan?
It's dark.
It is not tan, Todd.
It is dark. It is not tan.
It's a medium brown.
Well, tan and terracotta are the
know,
approved, are the approved roof colors. And
Then how was the one approved?
okay, the fact that an error was made does not mean we have to continue making errors. It's
Oh,
not
I
like,
thought
it's
a
not like a
precedent.
court where we have a precedent we have to follow. Would you agree? Anybody? What do you think?
I'm confused about the rest of the streets that also are not supposed to have brown, and they all have brown on them. Or
This
not.
is what I found on Anguilla, 9 different colors
What's
in
Anguilla?
a half a mile.
And it's also hard when they can paint any other color that they want to throughout the whole community. And now we have sea salt houses with red roofs, and it's like,
You're getting all the base on Bill, what do you think?
That looks dark to me. I don't have, do we have a copy of the palette for that street available just to look at real quick?
I don't like reversing art decisions. I really don't.
I don't either, but I just would like to have that so I can have something to compare it to. Do we,
So ARC has found over time, they've realized standing seam comes in lighter color when it's up on the roofs, and stone-coated steel is coming in darker, okay? I don't think it's in the interest of the community to continue, as you said, John, to compound an issue when we can correct it. We have we have on our documents, we have a no waiver of future approvals clause, which basically states if in the process of having approved one project, we come to realize it's in conflict with our documents, we don't have to continue to compound the issue and approve those.
Okay.
With that said, this is not a tan. I took an opportunity to drive over to Ashbury myself, and there is a range. If you take tan as a general color, we have some that look like they're sand color on the lighter side of tan, and then you have some that look khaki, which would be on the darker side of standing seam. Again, ignoring the clay tile or ignoring the stone-coated steel, going like material to like material. This is a dark brown, not a tan, or a medium brown.
Any more discussion before you're ready to decide? Okay, ready to vote?
Hey, John, I have a question.
Yeah.
Would ARC be able to provide to the property owner some options as far as what's acceptable so we don't continue to inconvenience the property owner and just kind of continue to tread water?
I think that's perfectly reasonable. Don't you guys at ARC believe that's reasonable?
We did.
You did? Okay. All right, I think we're ready to decide. I'd like a show of hands, all those that want to grant Laura's appeal, raise your hand. 2. All opposed?
Todd?
Laura's denied.
Todd, what's your vote?
It's
I will stick with the ARC recommendation once again.
2 to 5. 5 to 2. Sorry, Laura. Okay, the next item is an ARC violation. What that to do with, what's that, Jeff?
We need another mic.
Yeah.
Just slow me down. Okay. Is this on? Okay, we have 3 violations through ARC where work was performed without a ARC application approved or without the City of Cape Coral permit. These 3 have been identified as violation, brought to the board's attention for violation. They're listed here as account numbers, as they should be for privacy purposes. They are in your packet, the 3, and there's also a summary sheet that you can draw your attention to. These roofs are already on.
So the highlighted ones are the ones we're looking
The
at?
highlighted ones are the ones you're looking at.
All right, and the other ones that have a no comment or unknown, what is that going to be?
That is either there's no application, we're going to reach out to them.
Okay.
If they chose a color, it's not on the roof yet.
There've been no application, yet they put the roof on anyway, and it's not a color that ARC would have accepted in the first place.
Nor is it an acceptable color.
Okay. We need to have a strong penalty in those
Well-
cases to prevent future.
Can we have discussion?
Of course.
Where are they? I can't find, are they here somewhere?
Yeah, we're in the middle of the packet.
It was sent to us. It was a text, and there are are 16 homes listed that don't have an ARC approval. One of them listed on Anguilla, and I spent quite a bit of time on Anguilla looking at the colors and the types of roofs on that half mile from where I turn onto Anguilla from the Trafalgar Gate to where I turn to Palmyra.
Yeah.
Anyway, there are, the one listed on Anguilla, 2542, no ARC approval or Cape Coral permit.
Can't be referring to
That,
we can't be referring to the addresses.
pardon?
We cannot refer to the addresses.
Don't tell streets. We shouldn't
Oh,
be.
don't tell
No,
streets?
No, not in our meeting, no.
Oh, okay, I'm
Please,
sorry.
Please. We're trying to keep it undisclosed.
Undisclosed.
Yeah, okay.
All right, I won't use numbers, I mean house numbers.
Yeah, okay.
Would the jury strike the comments?
Yeah, right.
Yeah, strike whatever I said about a house number.
Did I get that right?
Let me just say that on Anguilla, for that half mile, I think, right at half mile, there are 9 different colors. There's orange variegated, tan, brown, dark gray, light gray, a slate gray, standing seam gray, red variegated, and a medium brown barrel. So, and one that just has the underlayment. There are 42 houses. And
You're getting specific.
that means you've got like 20% that are different. Most of them are the orange variegated, which I believe is the original, that weren't damaged and didn't have to have replacement. If we have, there are 2 standing steel gray, 1 red variegated, 1 brown barrel. The house that is listed with no approval, there are 3 on that street that are the same brown that may have been approved for the others. I just think that,
There are two levels of problems.
okay,
One is not submitting an application, okay? And that's a no-no. If you submit an application and it would have been approved, it's still an error, and they should have a minimal penalty. All right?
Okay.
There will be a penalty. If you didn't submit one, and it's not a color we would have approved, it's serious. Or else we're gonna have a lot of people totally ignoring our processes and our rules, and we won't have them anymore. We have to do something, and that's what we're attacking right now. These they're not bad people, they just are ignoring what an HOA is about. And I'm not saying I'm proud of this process, but we need to be consistent. And so I would say
if Ian had not happened, we wouldn't have had this problem, right?
good.
So perhaps the residents were not aware that that should be followed.
Cannot use that excuse.
Settle down. Let's, are we ready to vote on
Did you
this?
want a comment from the ARC or not?
No.
Okay, so I have a question. So what specifically are we voting on for these 3 accounts?
$1,000,
Okay.
$1,000 fine.
$1,000 fine each, following normal rules relative to collection, and if they fail to pay,
Yes,
then we have
we have
escalating,
further action we can take.
further action that we can take if they don't satisfy that.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
I'd make a motion to approve those fines.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no?
No,
Okay.
I think it's too much.
Reimert's in favor.
What'd you say, Todd?
I'm in favor.
Okay, it passes 6-1. Next subject.
I'm sorry, Stan, you were here for those fines too? Because I didn't hear your vote. Okay, 6-1, okay.
Yeah,
All right.
all right. Next item.
Landscaping.
Landscaping, Dave.
Okay, we have received back the proposals from all the vendors that we sent out the RFP to. The landscape committee is currently going through the proposals, reviewing them, and coming up with a list of questions that we want to go back to the vendors and get answers to. We are also starting to work on putting together an RFP for the common areas. And we're going to try and accelerate that because the contract for common areas is up in January. So we're going to try to push that out quickly and get it in front of the board for approval. sod is going to be put in place in approximately 3 weeks. So that's moving forward. And that's really all I have on landscaping, unless anybody has any questions.
Well, the comment I would make is that the same phenomenon that we've seen in other landscaping companies, that the performance deteriorates over time, we're seeing some of that from Crawford as well. Crawford's been bought out and the level of service has declined somewhat. So we will be looking at alternatives. We might still keep them, but we'll be looking at alternatives to Crawford as well when their contract is up in January. Our landscape committee has done a fantastic job of really looking after and managing, attempting to manage these vendors. And if these can't be managed, we'll find those that can. Okay. Do you have, as part of your report, didn't you have a motion for?
Yes, we got some bids for getting in a landscape architect to review the damage and come up with a design for repairing it. I want to be very clear to people that we're not looking for somebody to come in and tell us to yank everything out and start over. What we're looking for is to come in, tell us what needs to be done to get the property back in the condition it was prior to Ian. And I would like to make a motion that we approve Beltran for this landscape design.
That was $10,000, wasn't it?
It was, actually, it's a little less than 10,000.
Yeah, right at.
I have a question under discussion, please.
Sure. We need a second before we go to discussion. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, go ahead, Todd.
What due diligence have we done on this particular vendor? What's their experience, et cetera?
This particular designer has over 30 years' experience doing designs both up north and in the Naples area.
Okay, I'm sorry, David, could you clarify up north and in the Naples area?
Okay, I meant, he started his business in New England. I don't remember the exact state, but it was up in New England. And actually what happened was the developers that he was working with up there decided to move down to the Naples area and start developing property there. And they asked him to come down and open a satellite office and continue to do work for them. So he did that, and now he's full-time down here. He sold his business because he wanted to retire. And then when he built his house down here, he started working with Beltran to get the shrubbery and landscape in. And they actually asked him if he'd be willing to work for them, to do the design for them, and he agreed.
And do we have other bids other than this individual?
There was one other bid that was, what was it, $65,000.
Yeah. Yeah. The thing is, it's, some people will say, well, what do we have to do to replace everything we had before? Well, we had a bunch of trees that were too big and too thick and break in windstorms. So what we don't want to do is go back and actually duplicate what was done. What we really want is a really good future design, and then a plan to build toward that design over the next few years. I think the idea of the landscape committee coming up with a landscape architecture plan is outstanding.
If I can,
I completely agree. My other comment, has he done any projects in Lee County?
Yes, he has. He gave me a list. I'd have to find it to give you an example, the list of places he's done. Because he even said, if you want, I'll give you all the places and you can drive around and look at them.
And is he a designer or architect?
He is a designer that will work with an architect to come up with the plans. In fact, his pricing he has broken out for design versus architecture. You know, so the architecture is going to be the one putting the plans together. He's going to be doing the design.
I think that's very important for the board to understand. There's two levels of expense. I'm all for this and doing it, but just understand that this is just a designer plan for $10,000.
No, it's both. He is working with an architect to put this all together for $8,300.
It includes both, Todd.
And the price is broken out on how much the architect is charging versus how much the designer is charging.
I support the plan. I don't know if I'm totally comfortable with the actual vendor, but I'm putting a lot of trust and faith in the landscaping committee to make the right recommendation.
Okay.
if I can add.
Go ahead, Chuck.
No.
Go ahead.
The typical way of handling this, if our relationship with Crawford was in a good place, is that they would provide the plan and design. However, we would be exclusive to, they would have to do the work, perform the work, and would be subjected to their prices. And we would not be able to take this out and price it against others for the best possible price. And obviously that's where they're making, nothing's for free.
Sure.
They're going to give you a free design and then you're going to pay for it with the installation. That's kind of why we're not trying to get involved exclusively with a landscaper, so we can actually price this out under a different.
Get competitive bidding down the road.
We need competition against Crawford.
And I did make it clear to them that, you know, just because they do the design, in no shape, way, or form does it mean they're going to get the work.
Okay. All right.
John?
Yes.
Two comments. Todd, you go because you're remote.
I was just going to say what Chuck says is exactly what I'm in support of. There's no way that our landscapers we presently have should be controlling any project of this magnitude. It should be independent. So based on what Chuck says, I totally in complete agreement. Thanks, Bill, for yielding.
No problem. So Dave, I have one question and two comments. Will their plan include a phasing proposal?
The actual design is going to be for the entire property.
Okay.
Entrances inside.
Right.
But we as a landscape committee would have to look at it in terms of phases because, you know, landscaping is not cheap and we're going to have to spread this out over
A few years, yes.
Few years.
Yeah,
Over 3 years.
Yeah,
What I was thinking, yeah. So you get a good picture where you want to go and then you
yeah.
work
yeah.
over time.
So I think, okay, so that's my question. So
Yeah.
my first comment is that I think this is a good effort that's consistent with the strategic plan draft that we all had a chance to review over the last 30 days, so I think this is very good. And my other comment is that I think this will be funded out of the Hurricane Ian assessment funds
Right.
instead of out of the general reserve funds, because I think this is reasonably part of our restoration
It is.
efforts
It
from
is.
Hurricane Ian.
Would they come out of that?
It'll come out, so there's
That
that
contingency clause.
contingency
Yes,
bucket there, so we'll pay for it out of there, so it won't come out of the general reserves.
understood.
Are we ready for the question? All those in favor of engaging this firm, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carried. Thank you very much, Dave.
All right, and then communications. The committee is currently putting together a proposal to get some TVs for like the reception area that informs the residents of activities and things that are going on. And they're also looking to see about putting something together for out by the pool area. So that when residents come in, they can see activities that are going on, upcoming activities and events. So that's what they're currently working on.
You don't have a proposal for that?
No, I don't have, just saying that they're working on putting that together.
Okay.
The other thing is all the proofreading for the website was completed and updates have been made. They are working with the art committee on a couple of projects, such as roof choices, comprehensive house paint colors. And then they're gonna be working on updating the handbook based on what was just approved for the change to the fishing.
Right.
And I know there was some individuals discussing what is legally acceptable in the pool in terms of floats. So once that decision has been made, they'll be making updates to the.
That's gonna come later today.
Okay. Social media seems to be doing better. They're engaging more people in the community, so that's a good sign. And they want to put together a subcommittee to start looking into something to use to replace CenturyLink. And they don't have that group formed yet, but they.
Don't clap yet.
Yeah.
That one, we need a lot of lead time, because the CenturyLink contract is not up for about like 3 years, but we need to get well ahead of that.
Yeah. And then the only other thing is something that Denise is starting or has been doing for a while, and that is providing the motions that are passed from the board meeting, getting that out on the website.
Okay.
And that's it. Any questions?
Nope. Thank you very much. Who's reporting for ARC?
I would imagine Marty.
Okay, Marty. Welcome back.
We need to
Mic for Marty. Okay.
Okay, month of August, 67 applications, 56 of those were roofs. Total roof applications since Ian, 401. But that's only 34% of the community. And that's taking out Somerville, and that's taking out the Twin Villas. So that's taking out, that leaves us with 1,124 roofs. That's a lot. That's it.
Okay.
Yeah, we just got ours, finally.
Thank you. And you guys are meeting all the time now, right?
Yes.
Twice a month? Yeah. Thank you.
May I take a moment? I
Please.
recently joined with Maryland as one of the liaisons on the Architectural Review Committee, and it has been, just watching it, it's a yeoman's job. They've done a lot of heavy lifting.
Oh, yeah.
And I know that a lot of the committees get that praise.
We hear from the social committee. Oh. And most of the conversation revolved around Halloween.
Yeah.
However, there were no motions that could be made because they didn't have a quorum. So it's very important for I think there are still 7 people on the social committee. And they need to let Jessica know that they're not going to be there. However, I will say she's doing a fantastic job. I mean, she is just so prepared. She's an excellent employee.
Yes,
And I
she
just wanted to share that.
That we agree.
Yep.
Okay, amenities, Stan.
Amenities?
Yes.
I think Rob, you got, Rob's up. Rob's up. Rob, you're up.
While Rob is coming up, I just want to know for the board that last meeting we had a discussion about the lifestyle vendor operations policy.
Yes.
That was under review, and Bill was on vacation, we can't blame Bill, but Bill came to the table with some outstanding items that weren't really thought of. So we're tabling that policy for, give us some more time to kind of work this through, get it to risk management. It already went to risk management, and then put these new comments in, get it to risk, and get it back in front of the board.
For residents to know what we're talking about, this is, it was, at one time, we had a very strict policy that people that worked here and gave classes and so forth could only be done so as employees of Associa. And we couldn't have the direct impact like we've had with some of the yoga classes and tennis and so forth. That practice is being amended to be much more practical and softer, and we just need some more work on it.
Well, let me add to that the fact that the vendors were the food trucks that come on Fridays. Under the old rules, they wouldn't be allowed.
Right.
So
Actually, that's not true, Marilyn. If you go back to the meeting, the video replay of the meeting where these original rules were.
Oh.
Okay.
Food truck was accepted.
The food trucks were considered a product. We're talking about services.
Okay, all I'm saying is it was brought up at the social committee that they would not have been allowed, so I'm.
It would be worthwhile for the social committee to go back and relook at that discussion, because I think there were some useful things there.
The main thing is we're fixing it.
The main thing is we're changing it,
fixing
yes,
Okay. Thank you, Chuck.
which we probably need to change a lot of things.
Yes. Stan?
Your rules committee.
You're still on. Oh, I'm sorry.
Rob.
Thank you, Rob.
Thank you. Last meeting, we reviewed pool rules of floats. I don't know if it got, did you guys get an inclusion with our updated pool rules?
Yeah.
So that was one thing we did. Other than, I guess, threw a suggestion to Chuck about the shade in the dog park that got wiped out. They're gonna, I guess you're considering a tiki hut.
Yeah,
So
we need two motions to make those things happen, just to clear up the rules, all right? So who's gonna make that? Are you gonna do that? One of which is, people are worried about pool floaties and saying that we can only have the noodle, but some people have the noodle with a little seat in it. And you're modifying the rules so that can be, we're gonna modify those so that can happen. So
we're changing
put that
that
in a
rule?
motion and we need to pass it.
Okay, yeah, I mean, it's in the package.
Okay.
Just like Rob said, the amenities committee went over and thought hard about safety and the rules and regulations and what's past post, and they came up with with the same thing that we've all seen. I mean, we all have it, right?
Yeah.
With the same pool noodle, it can't be full of air. It's got to be solid, or whatever the Big Joe, I believe it's called. And it'll just save on any kind of issues with rafts and everything else. It's only going to okay these specific pool flotation devices, which we all.
We need a motion to approve that and put it in the record.
I can read the motion.
Please,
Board?
please.
The motion to allow certain pool flotation devices, non-inflatable flotation devices are allowed in the lagoon pool. The device cannot be larger than 24 inches by 48 inches or 60 by 120 centimeters. Any child wearing a flotation device must be attended by a parent or guardian within arm's reach. Examples for non-inflatables are pool noodles and Big Joe noodle sling, which are pictured in your guide here. If passed, this will be given to the pool attendants, and it will be out there for anyone's review.
Will you make that motion?
Yeah, make a motion to approve the Big Joe floating.
Yeah, what he said.
Yeah, what he said.
Do I hear a second?
I'll second it.
Okay. And we'll make sure we give that to our pool attendants for
So for Denise and Chuck, who's second? Andrew?
yeah. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed, no.
Todd?
Todd?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye, thank you. Okay, next one is we lost a big shade tree over the concrete space in the Barkley Dog Park. And I understand that you're proposing a tiki hut, a fairly large tiki hut to provide that shade. And that way we won't have to be taking it down when there's a windstorm. We could leave it there as a permanent structure.
The tiki huts are much better in storms, as you can tell from all the ones we've got.
Of course.
Other than Ian blowing a couple of them sideways.
We need that read as a motion, then we can discuss it. Do you have a motion for
A
that?
motion to approve Tiki Hut at the dog park.
Yeah, but you have a specific amount for it too, don't you?
Yeah, I'm trying to find it.
$16,500.
$16,500.
There was multiple bids.
And that was as a result of multiple bids.
Multiple bids, 16,000.
Let's clean that motion up. What should it say?
So,
Yeah, Bill.
John, I think the motion is that, the motion is to approve the quote from Southern Cross Tiki for $16,000, $16,500 to install Tiki Hut in the Barkley Dog Park area.
Do I hear a second?
I'll second.
Okay, any further discussion?
Discussion, please.
Yes, you're on. Yeah.
Bill, could you communicate where those funds are coming from to pay for that?
I was going to do that. So this will come out of the general reserves as a discretionary project. We went back and forth on this because this is an addition to the dog park and not a replacement. I can't put this as part of the assessment funds. So we're treating it, so that's why in the treasurer's report, I listed that as a pending discretionary project.
It's an enhancement rather than a replacement of
Correct,
damage.
correct.
Yeah.
You know, we want to keep it pretty strict so we have no issues with loss assessments.
Okay. It's
So
a,
this is being funded from the discretionary fund out of the annual operating budget, correct?
no, it's a
Out of the
reserve.
reserves.
It's a reserve.
So,
Okay.
so,
It's a discretionary part of the reserve.
yeah, so Todd, if you look at the last page of the treasurer's report, you'll see that listed as pending under discretionary projects.
It does not affect the current budget.
And Barkley, that's the big dog park?
That's the dog park by Calypso.
By Lake
By
Two,
Calypso,
yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
The one that's been closed since the hurricane.
Understood.
Yeah. And it's, okay, that's the better part.
Yeah, it should be noted that Chuck looked at a couple different ideas, like the covering from the playground here. And
Right.
It was comparable, same price, but this thing you gotta take down every time you.
That costs $30,000.
Yeah, it's expensive, so.
Yeah.
And this thing is you gotta take down where the tiki hut, you don't. Apparently there's not many other options to put out there. There's already a concrete pad on there.
Right.
So I know that I spoke against the tiki hut at the last meeting due to different reasons. This time around, we have two options and the better one is a cheaper one. So humbly asking to get that.
Any further discussion?
If we install this tiki, do we anticipate a similar request in the future from the other dog park?
From the other dog-
Well, I'm hoping that the other dog
Users
park.
will say that.
Well, the big reasoning for this one is because we should put shade in, you know, we have to. It's a dog park with, you know, we would have to put in trees and wait for them to grow or buy real big ones, and they're really expensive. Whereas the other dog park, from my understanding, already has covering. And, you know, apples to apples, they can ask for it. We can bring it up here and, you know, nicely say no or nicely say yes. But as of right now, that's the difference between the park by Birdmont is just a beach. You just get sunburned, where this one's covered.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think the answer to that is then that needs to be a request for the capital budget of 2024.
Agreed.
Or 25.
Yes.
Or 25.
Which, Todd?
Well,
You talking about the current question or the question of the
hypothetical.
other dog park?
No, I think the other golf cart, and I'll
Yes.
defer to Bill on that regards to the finance committee's recommendation on when to request that in the capital budget for either 2024 or 2025.
You're right, you're absolutely right. Are we ready for the question? All in favor of the expenditure, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carried, thank you. Okay, any more lifestyle discussions with the gym and so forth?
For the amenities, yeah, Denise Letchfeld? She's awesome, great addition. She's got a lot of great ideas. We were talking during our meeting that Sandoval is pretty much stale. We have a lot of stuff that we gotta fix, that's true. But when you go to other communities, the signage and other different things that make it pop, Denise has a lot of great ideas on doing different things, and it's really good that she came on this committee. Some of the things that we talked about was sports equipment available for residents' use. When anybody wants to go play bocce, nobody's at the bocce court, you would go to the pool attendants and give them your ID and sign out the bocce. We cornhole board site next to the horseshoes, just something else to have, something fun. We're not going to get rid of the horseshoes. I just don't want to get rid of stuff because they never come back. Pool glass tables are going to be replaced, from my understanding, with non-glass, which makes a lot. You can't dive and do a couple other things, and the bridge is a different beast. You can't do anything from the bridge. But we just got to catch up to the rules in different publications. Just like Andrew did, we just got to clean the stuff up so we don't come into any problems, and the pool attendants can and go from there.
Okay. I have one comment.
Yeah.
So Stan, just make sure that you liaison with Chuck and Brian on these requests so we can get them incorporated to the budget for next year.
Yeah.
Because, we want to make sure that we've got as much covered as possible here.
Right. Bocce court issues. We got a couple, seems to be kids. So they're vandalizing the bocce courts. You see the little footprints. I don't know what they're doing. They're bringing a rake and messing it all up. The guys come on in the morning, the girls come in the morning, and they got to spend a half hour rake and messing it all up. The guys come on in the morning, the girls come in the morning, and they got to spend a half hour to clean it. Luckily, so far, they haven't done major damage to it. Spoke to Chuck and the committee and Brian. We're having an issue with Envera in installing a camera to monitor it. So Chuck came up with Brian with the idea of getting like deer cams, trail cams. Everybody knows from the north, you go hunting. So anybody goes on, they turn on, they catch them, and hopefully we can deter it, maybe put a sign up, and go from there. But this also falls into the parents. Who's ever letting their kids play on the bocce ball court from the playground, stop. It's part of our amenities that we need to keep sweetly, nicely, and it's a lot of money. You all spend a lot of money on it.
It's not a sandbox.
Yeah, it's not a sandbox, it's not a toy. Stop letting your kids go on the bocce ball court. It's easy as that. That's pretty much it. And the cameras are going to go up soon, and we'll figure out who's doing it and go from there. The gym fans at the gym. Some people like turning the fans off in the gym. It gets hot in there, it gets sweaty, it gets disgusting. I sweat, I know I don't smell proper. Leave the fans on. If it's too cold in there, you're not working out hard enough, I think. So, I hate to say it, but, leave the fans on. And leave the lights on, too. There's cameras in there that may or may not need the ambient light in order to catch the people dropping weights from shoulder high that, just act properly, wear proper shoes, no sandals. A couple teenagers in there. We're acting very nicely, and there's a group of 5 or 6 that come in. Thank you. If you're watching, parents, your kids are doing great. I haven't had any issues. I'm there every day, and it seems to be working great. The management and Brian are keeping all the equipment clean. Correction, the pool attendants are keeping the equipment clean. Anytime there's a lightning delay, 2 of them or 1 of them go in there with a rag and a spray bottle, they clean the whole place up. It is fantastic. Brian is getting the guys to come in every 6 months to oil it up, oil the machines and keep them running so that we can all, so we don't have to spend money later on, right? So that's pretty much the bottom line is, Brian keeps on going, we don't have to spend money in 2024, 25. The only thing that I want, that I'm told that we need, is a rowing machine. I'm trying, gotta find room. Maybe put it in the conference room when they clean it out for that shed.
Put in the shed.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, you put it in the shed, it'll be too hot. That's pretty much it for amenities.
Now, safety and security.
Safety and security, that's an easy one. It's going pretty well. The security company, we have 2 guards, the 1 guard, the full-time guard, the 5-day-a-week guard. Fantastic. Still learning, but doing a great job. The off-day guard, he needs a little bit more training, but I'm glad it's not the other way around. You know, we got the good guy 5 days and the guy that needs a little bit more on the days off. So we're doing good. They're patrolling. The head guy goes up into the basketball courts. He's shooting basketballs. He's talking to the kids. He knows who belongs here and who does not belong here at this point, which is great, which is what he's supposed to do. So it's good that you get a company that does what they're supposed to do. And we haven't had any kind of major issues or fights or things being broken. So security's doing a really good job. That little golf cart, electric vehicle, I'm sorry. That electric vehicle, because we don't have golf carts here. They're just zooming around and they're visible. So if anybody has any issues, call them up, call Chuck. Call Chuck at any time of the day, please.
Or night. Call me at night,
Yeah.
too. Okay,
That's it.
thank you, Dan.
Yeah.
Jane, are you going to talk for Lakes or should I? Okay. Jane Simonelli, Chairman of Lakes Committee. Oh, here it goes. Got it?
By the way, Lakes Committee is really taking on some important work. And looking at the cosmos and also looking at what we got to do to restore our lakes.
And the littorals.
Yes, and that's what we're going to talk about.
So you may start with the littorals?
Yes.
Okay, so the Lakes Committee has received 2 quotes to plant littorals around the Phase 3 lakes, which it needs very desperately. A little bit of the history, I think it was 2016 or 2017, there were littorals planted in other lakes, but the Phase 3 lakes were still under contract with the developers, so they did not, they had littorals planted per the requirements of Florida, but they have never had extra littorals planted or replaced. So they are in desperate need of it. We received 2 quotes, one from Lake Doctors for $10,625 and one from Solitudes for $11,004. The quotes are close, but the Lakes Committee would like to recommend that the Lake Doctors quote be accepted. It's a little bit less, and we'd like to see how they perform with this job, because this is going to be an ongoing project that we want to replace littorals in some of the lakes every year.
If you'll recall, the Lake Doctors, the fellow who made the presentation that's now on YouTube, he's a Lake Doctor guy. And
Yes.
I think we'd like to get him in competition with what we've got now to see who can be the best vendor. So, thank you.
I have a question. I noticed this morning, after the rain we had in connection with the hurricane that just passed by, the littorals are no longer at the edge of the lake. It's out 2 to 4 feet.
Sure.
So,
Okay, so the littorals will grow so the way the lakes are graded, the littorals will grow until the water is 3 to 4 feet deep. Then they can't survive after that. So, yes, that fluctuates with the season.
and so the bids that you received are based on what was prior to the hurricane.
Yes.
They'll wait until the water recedes.
Well, so I think the quotes, the one quote, the lake doctor quote said that they can start 2 weeks after we sign the contract. So when you plant littorals, you want the water higher, not lower, because if you plant them, if it's too low, then they'll dry out, right? So the idea is that you want the water on the high side, not on the low side.
Well, I know you want them in the water, but if it's 4 feet out and there's water to your lawn, it
I mean, they know not to plant in the lawn and to get it into the lake area. And it's not 4 feet out, it's to a depth of 4 feet.
I mean, right now, that's because of all the rain.
Yes.
I think that what you said is that you want to plant littorals in high water and do erosion control in low water.
Yes, exactly.
Right. And therefore, we should do the littoral planting quickly before the water starts dropping when the rain
Right.
season starts.
So, do I make that as a,
Well, yeah, one of us should.
I'll make the motion to
engage.
engage the company that the Lakes Committee is recommending.
Yeah, that's Lake Doctor.
Lake Doctor.
Okay. Do I hear a second?
No second.
Any further discussion? Bill?
One comment. Go ahead, Andrew.
I was just going to ask you, Bill, because I know Todd's going to ask, where's this funding coming from?
So if you look in the last page of the treasurer's report, there's $58,000 that was in the reserve plan for lake work this year. This will come out of that portion. It is I'm assuming at this point that we'll only be spending this about $11,000 out of the 58 that was originally budgeted.
It's well within the current budget.
Oh yeah, it's part of it, and that'll help take some of the pressure off for the next year.
Right. So reserves.
Reserves.
Okay.
And then one of the things that I know that the Lakes Committee is working on is trying to come up with sort of like a multi-year plan that we can overlay that into the reserve spend going forward.
Right. At least a 3-year plan, hopefully 5.
Yeah.
Okay.
Is there any thought to letting the Lakes Company do half of, I noticed there are several lakes that are mentioned, do part of them and see how they do, or is there any concern?
Well, that's what this is. This is only
This
phase
is
3
the part
lakes.
over
This is
there.
only
I know,
like 6
but-
lakes.
Well, I know it's 6 lakes, but I was wondering whether you wanted to do half of them and see how they do, or do them all.
well, what we were hoping is these 6 are the 6 worst out of the 26 lakes.
Okay.
So we selected those and we wanted to start with that 6. And as I get down further in the report, we're working on a long-range plan, and part of that plan would be to every year do 3 to 5 lakes for littorals and 3 to 5 lakes for shoreline repair.
And by the way, the 2 vendors, I've looked at it, well, the one vendor had 3-foot spacing between plants,
Oh,
and this has 2 feet spacing. So we have
Which
a
is
denser,
better.
this is a
Yeah.
denser planting,
yeah.
which is going to be better for the lake shore. Okay.
But so the plan is to, over a number of years, is
Right.
to get to all.
All of them done.
Yes, yes, okay. Ready for the question? All in favor, say aye.
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 Aye. Opposed, no? Motion carried. Thank you, Jane, very much.
So the only other thing in my report is, as I said, we're working on a long-range plan. We need more estimates as to how much shoreline repair costs will be before we're, to work on that plan. The other thing is we're still waiting for quotes on doing the catching of the Placostomus. And that's in the development phase because it's something they're coming up with. That
Well, I don't know if we mentioned in the board meeting, but evidently Solitude actually has almost an experimental program to try out to actually capture and kill the Placostomus. And we would be a pilot program for
Right.
them,
So-
so we
but
could
they-
get it done cheaper and be a test case for them. Yeah.
Right, and they haven't really developed how to do it yet, so we're still waiting, but we're gonna work with them to develop a plan.
Thank you, Jane. Bill, you have
So the Finance Committee did not meet because they were scheduled to meet on Tuesday, and we postponed the meeting to September 7th, I believe that's Wednesday, or 6th is Wednesday, because didn't want to have anybody go out and, get exposed to the wind and rain Tuesday afternoon.
Okay, thank you. Andrew, covenants?
Sure, let me grab that.
Get your mic back. Yeah.
Here, take mine.
Yes, so covenants did meet this past month on the third Thursday, as we do at 4 p.m. every month. We did have our chairman was not there, so it was led by one of the other committee members. We had 3 members there to be able to process and address any appeals. In doing that, the committee members did note that there was some process issues that they were aware of with regards to getting the proper amount of notices out. We corrected that here this evening. So that document, to my understanding, is now being generated correctly, as we had a new case to consider this evening as well. That said, it went very smoothly. Chuck, as he normally does, gives us a bit of an update similar to that we received from the general manager's report. It has been brought to my attention that we are looking at several, if not more than several, roof cleaning concerns at our next board meeting. So I'll take this opportunity for the audience here and those listening abroad or not here in the building itself. I'd highly encourage you, if your roof is in that situation where it needs and looks like it needs to be cleaned, please start doing that, because it's going to be one of those things that the committee is going to be coming in front of the board and then also in front of the covenants committee to ensure that we're getting roofs compliant with the rules and regulations.
Let's talk about that a minute. I know some residents have said that, why should I clean the roof because my roof's busted and I've got to have a new roof? Well, if that's the case, put in an ARC application for a roof. If you put in an ARC application, your roof will be bypassed. Another thing, if you have engaged a service to clean your roof, let us know about it. Then you'll be given that grace period. But if you need it, go ahead and get someone to contract it or signed up to get it cleaned.
And that's it. It was a short meeting.
Yeah, okay. Todd, are you there?
Yes, sir, I'm here, and
Risk management.
Risk management there, we're honored to have Bill Duncan with us this evening, so I'll turn it over to Bill for presentation.
He has paper in his hand. Yeah, I can see him now. Hey, Bill. Welcome, Bill.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Chuck.
Okay. Two things that we need to talk about this evening. One is we've asked for a new charter, and I'd like to go into why we think we need a new charter. And second is, what is risk management doing right now? And frankly, that's fairly simple, and I'll cover that first. Risk management has done things like work with our insurers to try and get all of our insurance claims properly in. Todd, I believe that you and Craig are the ones who are leading the charge on that, and I'll let you comment on that if you would care to.
Yes, Craig Snyder and I and the help of Chuck have been working with the insurance company to say that it's been a battle. Is probably, I'll let everybody know, we'll just leave it at that. But we've adjusted for the third time now, and so we do have a request for some additional money, but we haven't seen anything yet. But Craig and Chuck have been extremely helpful and continue to be proactive and try to get the best we can.
Okay.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, As far as the other activities of the risk management group, at the present time, the main activity is reviewing contracts that are brought to us. Our general manager just brought me a contract for the lake company. So, you know, that type of thing comes in all of the time. We're reviewing the vendor policies that go out and the contracts associated with them. The main thing I wanted to talk about is, why do we have a risk management committee and what are we supposed to be doing? I have a philosophy in life, hopefully people will agree with it, and that is under promise and over perform, okay? Our current risk management charter, I have to read this to you, is to, 1, oversee risks such as strategic, financial, credit, market, liquidity, security, property, IT, legal, regulatory, reputational, and other risks. That's 1. And then to oversee the division of risk-related responsibilities to each board committee. So all you other committees, bow down to us. Okay.
Yes, sir.
As clearly as possible and perform gap analysis to determine the oversight of any risks is not missed. Okay, come on. Let's get realistic about this. We rewrote and we are proposing to the board a fairly simple, and I'm not going to read all this stuff. Lawyers write too damn much anyway. But the basic purpose of the Risk Management Committee is to assist our board in fulfilling its duties to manage and provide for the welfare of Sandoval and its residents by taking the following actions. 1, investigating and advising the board on risk management matters affecting the physical and financial well-being of the community and its residents, and recommending appropriate risk management, preventative and mitigative actions. That's too damn much weird stuff. Anyway, assisting the GM when he asks us if anything, like bringing us those contracts. And perhaps the main thing that we're doing right now, when we don't have a specific project, is when either Chuck or John or any member of the board wants us to review a contract, either we will review it if we have the expertise in-house, or we will recommend that it goes out to association council. At the present time, we have a modicum of experience in contracting matters with some of our members. So we can handle a little bit of that, perhaps save a little bit of money.
Thank you for that.
Okay. That being said, I am not going to read this entire page and a half. It has been provided, I believe, to the board for their review. Obviously, we recommend it because it simplifies. It doesn't try and put us up as the super god of risk management. Oh, it fell. But we recommend passage of this new charter, if will. If there are any questions, I'm happy to respond to them.
Need a motion?
Motion to accept the charter for the Risk Management Committee.
Second.
Made the second, any discussion?
I've got a couple questions.
Yes.
Okay. So Bill or Todd, could you explain to me under process 1 and 2 what you mean by those two statements?
Process. Process 1, safety and security. That means that basically Stan and I, and we have had 1 or 2 joint meetings already, where we get together, because there is an overlap between safety and risk management. And I don't think it's appropriate for either one of us to claim jurisdiction over that. Stan's people go out and do a lot more in the field type work as opposed to me. I'm an old lawyer, so I don't know how to go out in the field that much. But we do have people on our risk management committee who have a good bit of expertise in health and safety. So I think to the extent that we can work together, we will do that, and I think we'll come out with a much better result.
Number 2.
2 means that we should go out and look. And I'm going to tell you something. Going back about a year, I think when I first became involved with the Risk Management Committee, we went out and we split up the neighborhood, we walked around and we made lists of this, that, and the other thing. And you know what? I mean, I hate to say it, but not a damn thing got done. So maybe in the future, we can try and get a little bit done. Right now, I would hope that we can get some input from all the committees, because every one of the committees and every one of the residents here has, things that bother them about the committee. And if they would bring them to us, please, I believe if you don't have my email, I'll put it out there. It's Bill Senior at dunkerlawpa.com, but maybe we can, I don't know if it's listed anywhere. So, but send it to me, and we're happy to work with you on it.
So Bill, can I just read this entirety, because I just want to make sure I understand the intent behind 2. Committee members should periodically attempt to view the community, its properties, activities, and environs with the objective of identifying potential physical, operational, or financial risk, and report any questionable circumstance to the committee chair for evaluation to determine whether committee, GM, or board action may be necessary or appropriate.
Yeah.
So, give me an example of that.
Well, I thought I just gave one. We went out and physically walked this entire neighborhood last year and made up lists of things that needed to be fixed.
And like the
Now,
sidewalks.
we didn't do financial. Okay.
Yeah, I'm sorry, Bill, just, like the sidewalks, when they're raised up and they're walking hazard, I mean, I went out last time and the time before that, we've done it twice, because I know when my first stint was with risk management about 3 years ago, and we walked through and you call out the sidewalks being raised, the pedestrian markings not being right enough, or just dull. The covers on your list was huge. The cover on the sprinkler system boxes, that are broken or cracked, that need to be replaced. Bushes that block the view of cars as they're leaving their streets. I mean, there were a lot of issues that are still present today that risk management called out, and that's what I believe is what Bill is intending here, that we went out and we did all that work, and we a little bit at a time, a couple sidewalks were raised and the circles were, I haven't been around any circle, but I know the circles needed to be repaved, and I don't know if they were or not, things like that.
And Bill, to get back to another point on what you were just asking, the word financial there is not meant to infringe on your function or Treasury's functions. We aren't looking at what type of CDs we should get or how we should save our money. That's not our job. I look at financial, I'm a lawyer, okay?
Risk.
I look at
Risk.
financial, meaning money out of pocket because somebody trips where they shouldn't have tripped. Or, you know, that type of thing. So if we have a misstatement here that bothers you, I certainly recommend to the board that it be changed.
So I was trying to understand because, I mean, I understand the change under purpose in terms of trying to be clarifying and reach your under commitment, overperform type thing. I'm just comparing process from the previous one and process with the proposed one and trying to understand why you really needed to change anything. I mean, I understand the reason of changing purpose. I'm just trying to understand why you changed process.
I think the answer to that is we're trying to become more micro in the focus versus a macro perspective. Would that be more an accurate statement, Bill?
I think so. I mean, the process before had those very things that when I started off, I read, and that is that we should be looking at a tremendous, should we be including a plan or developing a plan for a risk management structure, framework, standards and methodologies with measurable milestones, guidelines, and review the process? And should we be directing the board and the GM to send us all the contracts? It's their job to make that determination. If they believe it's appropriate, we're happy to provide that service. Bill, you're saying that I didn't need to change the process? Well, I felt I did. If you don't want to, you're on the board. You can not make the change.
Any further discussion? Yes, Marilyn?
No.
Are we ready for the question of acceptance of this charter?
Did we do a motion?
You did. Yeah.
You
Made and seconded.
Yeah,
Okay.
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 It's just-
All in favor of accepting the new risk management charter, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no?
Aye.
Opposed. Okay, 6-4, 1 opposed. Motion passes. Thank you, Bill. Very much. If you look at our contracts, particularly some of our major contracts for landscaping and everything, you'll see a lot of work should have been done that wasn't done in the past that we will make sure we do better in the future. So we have, quality comes from measurement and performance. And, we've got to do that in all of our contracting works, and I appreciate you working on it for us. The strategic planning, do you have a report, Todd?
Yes, I do, and I would just also like to echo what you just said, John, is that the work that Mr. Dunker has done for this HOA has been, it's been a tremendous savings, and so I appreciate his help there. In regards to strategic planning, Chairman Jerry Kern is unfortunately not able to attend tonight, but he did send me a note. He said the meeting with the committee last week was extremely successful. He thanks everyone who attended, and the strategic planning committee is working to incorporate the new information that we received at the meeting last week and plan to present the formal and final strategic plan to the board at the September meeting. And those were the comments from Chairman Jerry Kirk. That's all I have on that.
Thank you, Todd. The next meeting of our board will be on September 28th. We are now adjourned, and we're open for for comments from the floor.
Marty needs to talk.
Yes, Marty.
He's waiting it down. 1 second, I'm going to get you a mic.
After the vote was taken about the walkway expansion, my email and text is blown up. Cape Coral Code says that 60% of your property has to be impervious.
Has to be what?
Impervious. I mean, it's right here. I've got it right here. in the,
Allows for water penetration. Allows for water penetration.
Yes, come. I can barely say the word.
Impervious means that it allows for water penetration into the ground. So sidewalks, driveways, and those things like impervious, gravel, planter beds, mulch, they allow for the water to penetrate. And the Cape Coral Code is a 60% you're quoting. I work with it a little bit, building seawalls and captain's walks and docks and patios and so forth. So that is a rule with Cape Coral you'd have to make sure you consider in that sidewalk issue.
Is there a suggestion that this walk on the side of his house will mean that more than 50% of his ground is impervious?
You'd have to measure that, yeah, absolutely. I mean, if you look at the footprint, the survey of the property, overlay the house on that, the footprint of the house, footprint of the driveway. I'm not sure about pavers being 100% impermeable. Some products give a slightly different percentage rating because there are cracks between the pavers, and there are also rubber pavers that we may have some place here in the clay decks that are allowed for penetration.
All right. I wonder if our board is responsible for maintaining government regulations. I don't think so. If someone is violating that, that's between them and the government. This walk seemed to be reasonable. If it isn't, tell me.
Let me keep going. I've got more to tell you.
Okay.
My request is, doesn't it still have to have a city permit, just like the roofs and everything else?
When you apply for a pool application, they do a calculation sheet to make sure that you are below the 60%. Well, since he has applied for the pool, he's added a patio, he's added a koi pond, and now he's added a walkway, and he's now extended his driveway. So that's what set my email and my text office. How much room does he have? And these are from neighbors. So they're wondering, are we now above the 60%? And I feel responsible for bringing this up because when I get emails, I feel responsible for voicing the concern. So I don't know what we do. I've never dealt with this. I don't know how to handle this because you approved it.
Had we been told this
And I
as part of
think
that
they
decision process, I'm sure we could have modified our
Can
plan.
I ask a question?
The city.
Did the other work that he's done that you talked about, did he get permits to do that, or did he do it on his own? He got permits?
Yes.
One more additional comment. I'm not sure that Sandoval is required to fulfill that 60% rule. There have been exceptions in Cape Coral in the past. These lots are so small in here that it may not have been held to that same residential standard.
How do we find this out?
Gated communities, gated communities are different. But still, city permits are required. So they'll turn it down if it's not a, no?
Well, his pool was approved, was permitted, but not the patio, not the sidewalks, not the koi pond. It was the koi pond because the permit is the koi pond, but we didn't see it on the application. And I'm not sure, did you all approve the sidewalk on both sides? Because his application was for a sidewalk on both sides. And that was, what did we come up with, 78 feet? That's an additional 78 feet of sidewalk.
Square feet.
Starts
What's that?
at,
Give it
it
the
starts
wristband.
at corner of the house, goes all the way to the end of the house.
Sound like a mission for risk management, doesn't it?
I don't know,
Okay.
I just,
I'll
I had to
make
bring it
up
up.
with one. If we made a mistake, we'll have to correct it, but the meeting is over. We'll have to do it next meeting. Yeah, we'll have to, if we make a mistake, we can correct it. I'm sorry. I understood it to be one sidewalk and one side was out.
And that's what the pictures were.
Right, right. That's all I saw in
The
the
picture
drawing.
showed only one sidewalk.
Yeah, right. That's what we approved, and,
Oh, he brought
we
it.
ain't
I
perfect.
was looking through here.
Anything
I
else?
started to do that. and I
Yes.
realized-
He said we had to wait till after the meeting was over to know when the contract with, the Earth expires.
March.
Thank you.
But, we're not on TV anymore, right?
Right.
What?
You said the meeting's not adjourned.
I did say it was adjourned.
Yeah.
Not, you weren't clear on the full slide.
I'm sorry, it's adjourned. It's been adjourned for a while.